Welcome, everyone. Sorry we're running a little bit late. We've got a technical problem. It's supposed to be solved in a couple of minutes, but we decided to just go live. So, Robert, long time no see. Almost,
Yeah,
almost,
12
almost
hours.
24 hours.
It's been terrible.
Yeah. Well, good to have you back.
Glad
Today,
to be back.
Today we've got a guest that I've been wanting to have her on since you did a show with her, and I checked that was April last year. So
Jesus.
took a while to get her on the show, but she's finally here. So yeah, I introduce yourself. We've got Amy Newman. Amy.
Thank you so very much, and it's great to be here. I super love the title Herding Cats because I feel that explains trying to gather atheists very well. And so I am a amateur comedian and debater. I have recently started to get into the debate game because I felt like it was a cathartic movement, moving from just typing and texting into comment section. I felt like I had to actually do something. And so, like a bursting volcano, it got to the moment where I was like, I really think that we should be pushing harder for skeptical viewpoints. And so I created my little channel at youtube.com/Amy Newman, and I'm looking to help be part of the community.
Yeah, and so I have to say, so I've been watching modern day debate, obviously, and I saw a couple of debates that you had. I'm pretty much a fan. So you always seem to come prepared, never lost for words, and yeah, that's not all the debaters are as prepared and as good at it. So, did you have any skills in debating before you joined modern day debate, or was this the first?
Not really. I would say there was a transitionary period from going from text chat to voice, where you're really just 1,000 people in the corner to trying to really work out what your viewpoint is versus someone else's viewpoint. But I think it really took a few years to get here. It took a lot. I say my two biggest inspirations are Christopher Hitchens and George Carlin. And with two people like that, it's hard to imagine ending up anywhere else.
Well,
True.
I mean, those are pretty good names. So
Two
Christopher
big
Hitchens,
titans.
yeah, Christopher Hitchens. I don't think I'm going to reach that level ever. Um,
Yeah,
There can be only
neither am
one.
I.
There can be only one.
no, but I do have a little trick up my sleeve. Because I watched the debate. So during this
Oh God.
conversation, Amy, we need to figure out whether or not Robert is God or has godly powers. Because
I
I
can
think
answer that.
because I don't
Shit.
know I don't know if any of you noticed, but Robert predicted the pandemic during your debate. Did you know that?
really.
Here's Robert. Holy shit, really?
That Robert, and I can show you. Look, he's all masked up.
I actually remember the exact part of that debate. Even if I hadn't watched it this morning, that was right before I asked her, because I was about to say, so for those of you who don't know how this works, you show up about 5 to 10 minutes early in the pregame show. Whoever's hosting checks the mics, you get to talk, you get a little rapport, then we go live. We went back and forth several times trying to coordinate all four schedules. And so James, the host, and I still say I will never say this person's name again, godless sack of shit, was there first. Then I showed up. I saw her handle and was like, oh, clearly this is my debate partner. So I'm just trying to get some rapport. I'm like, hey, my name's Robert. I see, godless. How would you like me to address you, Godless? Okay, hey, how you doing? You doing okay? Fine. Okay, hey, how are we going to handle this? And she was so cold. I was like, there is no way I can debate with someone who I can't get any rapport with. And then Amy showed up, then Gary showed up, and I was like, oh, thank God. The God I don't believe in. Amy's my partner and not this sack of shit, right? And so you and I clicked, and Gary never clicked with her because she can't be clicked with. And that point of the interview, pardon my puberty there, that point in the interview where the towel's over my face, I think at that point, that's when I first realized this was going to be a shit show. And that's when I asked her, what is your problem with atheists? Because you're one of them. That. Yeah. And then what'd she say? Something like, I hate atheists. I'm like, that's like me saying I hate black people. What's your fucking problem? Mm-hmm. And at that point, she gave the dumbest answer imaginable. I was like, okay, she's just going to lay a shit on the floor, and we just have to act like we don't smell it. That was terrible. That was terrible.
And I remember right after you asking that, I tried to strongman her opinion. I feel like I might have went a little technical because the moment that she heard any technical words out of my mouth, and especially gravity, she was like, that's not what I said. That's not what I said. And I had to spend like 5 minutes being like, okay, I guess it's not what you said.
Yeah, and it was right after that moment, pardon me, where he started talking about Sean Carroll. Right now, I used to play football. And so if someone said, hey, you know what? Derek Thomas says you should do this. We played the same position. I'd be like, I got to write that shit down. That's Derek Thomas. And y'all were talking about the science portion, and you quoted Sean Carroll. Now, she's just a foul-mouthed, cigarette-smoking sack of shit. Sean Carroll is a leader in his field, and I remember you said it, and she was like, I don't care about Sean Carroll. I was like, oh, fuck me. She's not here to be serious. She's just not. So she was a total waste. And I have no problems talking shit about her this entire time. And if she sees it, I don't give a shit. What is she going to do? Talk bad about us?
Challenge us to debate, too.
I mean,
there's nothing to debate with her. What's that?
And I will say, just in the opposite direction, Gary's come on my stream at least twice since that has happened, even in like the month, and he's always been a gentleman. He is always just the nicest guy. So it is kind of funny how that dichotomy there.
Yeah, so it was probably the worst team up ever. I wouldn't have done that to Gary. He's been on our show twice. And he's always been a nice guy. We may disagree on a couple of points, but that doesn't mean that you've got to be this hostile. And at the end, someone I asked whether or not that would be a good way to interact with people with such a hostile attitude. She didn't even understand the question. First, they had
she didn't even try.
No, James had to explain to her what the question actually meant, and then said, well, this is my debate style. Well, you might want to work on that if that's your debate style, because that's just not helping.
Yeah, it's not. You want to be a good interlocutor. You want to feel like the person next to you is listening to what you're saying and will respond in kind and isn't going to straw man everything that comes out of your mouth.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, we agreed to sit down and have a talk about literature, and she came for a fist fight. There was nothing about her that wanted to seriously and engage in that debate or even discussion, because she came out. The tone of that debate at best between atheists and Christians should be a 2. She took that shit to a 25 before there was ever a reason to go that hard, which is fucked up, because apparently there were 3 atheists in that discussion, right? And it should have been, if nothing, 3 against 1. But instead, she just came across, and I was sitting here, I was thinking about while I was listening to that bullshit this morning, if you were to close your eyes and just, who am I listening to? All I heard was Frank Turek. Right? Because he plays that exact same game, and all apologists have their own little niche, right?
Yeah.
And when we got to the point, and the only good thing about Godless Sack of Shit is that she has taught me what my limit is. And I will never talk about rape with a Christian ever again. Because the topic of rape is the easiest thing ever. Well, hey, Peter, what do you think about rape?
It's wrong.
There we
And-
go.
and-
See how fucking easy that was?
And it's
Right.
really easy. I watched that part obviously earlier today, and it's really easy if you're not
Yep.
if you're not able to figure out what is right and wrong. There's an easy way to test this. If I slap you in the face, would you like it?
Exactly.
It's that easy, and that's not coming close to rape.
Exactly. And that was my
But
thing with her. It was, there's nothing that I would say behind the back of the rape survivors that I've taught in my past that I wouldn't say to their face. I'm sorry. How can I help you? I'll drive you. I will do anything to help this. That's all you say. But if you spend 30 fucking minutes trying to argue whether rape is wrong or not, you're either a Christian apologist, a rapist, or fucking both. And so it's just like, this is easy. And so when she kept going on with the whole, well, why is it wrong? And I was like, why don't we go ask the rape survivor? And he was like, well, this is just your preference. And I was like, oh my God, fuck you. I hope you die alone. That's the only thing I can say. She taught me my limits, and I will never talk about rape with a Christian ever again. I'm sorry, what were you about to say?
No, I agree. They do absolute somersaults, and it reminds me of similar subjects like slavery. Just if we have to tie ourselves in knots just to say that rape and slavery is bad, then something's wrong. Something's very, very wrong here.
Absolutely. And then when I said Frank Turek, because I remember he's done that with slavery, and I remember, and it was one of those moments, it was like a Trump moment, where a grown-ass man imitates a physically disabled person. You would think that would crush their career, but it didn't. And I remember he was having a debate with Dave Silverman, who just so happens to be Jewish. And if you think about some of the more permanent images of photographic history, that the vulture standing over the kid, waiting for it to die, if you remember that picture, that photographer ended up taking their life. It stained them. The person in Vietnam who was executed with that, one of those images that will never go away, Holocaust victims, their bodies were stacked like fucking lumber. They didn't give them the dignity of a proper burial and a proper send-off. And Turek shows that and says, and he says the exact same thing with the exact same tone of voice, right? Well, if there is no God, this is just an opinion. It's like, no, you fucker. That's mass murder. That's fucking genocide. They worked those people to exhaustion. That's not an opinion, you sack of shit. And so when Godless did that exact same thing with the topic of rape, I was like, well, it's just your opinion. It's like, yeah, and it's a pretty fucking valid opinion. I don't think a woman should walk out of her house and have to look 500 different ways to make sure some guy's not going to do something to her she doesn't want done. And so I was like, again, what I asked Peter was totally unrehearsed. That conversation took 13 seconds. With Godless Sack of Shit, it took 13 minutes. Give me a break. That's why. And I hope she sees this. Can someone tag her monkey ass in and let her know that she is a horrible, horrible excuse for a human?
So I'll say this. Oh, wait. What were you going to say, Peter?
yeah, she follows me on Twitter, so obviously she got the link to the show. So I don't know if she's ever watched, but I don't know. Well,
I will say there are, and it doesn't, I'm not going to attach her name, but there are some people out there that I think have a more TMZ attitude than they do, let's just say, journalistic integrity. As in, they're really looking to get the emotion out of people and the drama out of people. And that's why I believe when you were nice to a random person, they were cold to you because they don't know how. They may not see. I don't want to psychologize too much, but they may not know how to process nice, happy data from someone. And it's not until you get you say something that they disagree with that then they go back to throwing punches. It's like, we're not here to throw punches. We're here to figure out each other's worldview, and whoever has the more valid points will we should believe it. It's not here to you're not here to try and conk the other person on the head. And I think let's just say our debate opponents sometimes forget that.
Well, I think that's what happens when you talk to, and especially someone, and I put her in the same category as an apologist. Because again, if you just close your eyes, if you just close your eyes, you would not think that was an atheist. You would think that was Turek or Tim Bruggencate or some other fucking idiot. But Christian apologetics is not there to convey the truth. It is simply there to win debates. And they will sit here and they will, we were talked to and he was a good kid. He really was a good kid. But I simply asked him to give me proof that his God was real. And he immediately started talking about the laws of logic.
Oh, of course.
Right. And I was like, okay, if you ask me to show you that Papa is here, and I start talking about crotch rot and, fucking athlete's foot, you're going to be like, what the fuck does that have to do with your dog? If I ask you for proof for your God and you immediately start talking about laws of logic, you're simply trying to win a debate. You're not trying to convey truth. What's that?
100%. If you go into the store and they're like, well, your total comes to $7, and your response is, well, what really is $7? Do we even know if we're really brains in vats? You would get kicked out of the store so fast. They would never accept that shit. But for some reason, we have to.
And that's why I don't play that game. And I mean, we're too nice. And I realize, if you got like the atheist experience and you're trying to run a show, there's an entertainment value to it, but it only works in this category, right? I still remember one of the worst things when I was a boy, talking like maybe 8th grade. By today's standards, it would be called bullying, but the worst thing that you could have been called was a virgin, right? And everyone, and I still remember people crying because it was because it wasn't just, hey, Robert, have you engaged in sexual intercourse? Well, no, I haven't. I regret to inform you, you're a virgin. Have a nice day. No, it was an all-day ass whooping. It was fucking terrible. And I watched people cry because they're getting their ass whooped, or cry because they think tomorrow's their day. And it's like, okay, well, if you're not a virgin, you're just like, it's her or it's him, right? That person right there. Go ask them. But if you sit there, you're like, that person's in Kansas, and and they have quadruple F titties, and it's like, the more fantastic the story, the more bullshit you're just kind of piling on to make yourself look like you're right. And again, it's only when you talk to an apologist that you sit here and you listen to these fantastic stories and ridiculous ass excuses on why they can't answer a simple question like, where's your God? Right? Yeah, you're right. If it takes you 29 minutes to answer a yes or no question, you're full of shit. Really.
Yeah. And I've never given them a response to which they like. Every time they're like, well, what would be proof for you or evidence for you?
God.
I then give them what I think is evidence, and they try and attest. So I'll be like, well, bring Jesus here and let us put him in an MRI machine. And they're like, well, you can't. You said I could have anything. You're like, what would it take? And this is the all-powerful, all-knowing creator of the universe. All of a sudden, once we get into specifics, it's amazing how this deity just seems to dissipate into this laws of logic axiom thing.
Yep. The first interview I did, that's where I met Peter. actually. And it's She Who Shall Not Be Named and Heather and me and Peter. And Heather, who just doesn't understand, who I'm sure she's a lovely person, but she does not understand burden of proof. And she asked me that exact same thing. What would it take you to believe in God? And I was like, that's not my job. I'm not defining, nor am I declaring that a God exists. You have to. And she just wouldn't let it go. I was like, you know what? Fine. And I still remember, it's like, okay, have God knock on my door like in 7 minutes and make God a redhead. If that happens, I will believe in God. And both Heather and She Who Shall Not Be Named, just went into this Deion Sanders level backpedaling like fucking Jerry Rice on a 9 route. And it was like, oh, well, I
you
can't
wouldn't really believe that.
Yeah, and I was like, then why'd you fucking ask? Right? You wanted to know. And that's when Peter was like, you can convert Robert right now.
Yep.
Have God show up. And they just wouldn't, when you ask for something tangible, something you can put your hands on.
It's so
that's when
easy.
the bullshit starts.
It's so easy. You got an all-loving God who, according to the Bible, wants you to know him. So what's keeping him? Let him give me a sign. He'll know what convinced me. I don't see the problem there. But by the way, the redhead is in the side chat, and she figured out the popping up of the messages is working again. So
we are.
Hi, Lilith.
Hold on. Are we? Is the side chat up and running?
Well, it is on my end. You still
because. When you said we were going to go live, the first thing I wanted to do was quote noted historian and philosopher Bill O'Reilly and say, fuck it, we'll do it live. But I didn't get a chance to say it, so I threw that in there right now. But if everyone's up and running,
I do need to give a shout out to Dave Critical Cripple. We had a problem pulling up the messages from the side chat, and Dave fixed that in just a couple of minutes. So thanks to Dave. And another thing, yesterday we did a show with Doc Savage. I got Doc in touch with Arn Ra, and as it appears, he'll be on Arn Ra's channel tomorrow. So you might want to check in on that. That's going to be noon Eastern, 11 Central, 6 o'clock European time. So might want to tune in for that.
He's awesome. I love Aaron.
Both of them are.
Yes, and I get to run the show, so that's extremely cool. But I wanted to veer off to a different topic. So I'm curious. So Amy, at some point you thought I'm going to debate, and you went on modern day debate as your first choice? Did it happen because you were watching? How did that happen?
I'll be honest, I think what really wrote me in was the atheist experience. I'm not 100% sure how I came across it, but I've been probably listening to them for like 3+ years now. And I think that's where you start to learn the lingo, or at least where I started to learn the lingo. You start to, just what straw men fallacies and all these words that you don't really come across if you don't take a philosophy course. And from that, you start to argue maybe in the comments section, and you start to go on other channels. And I think Modern Day Debate got advertised to me at one point, or it just came up that they were live streaming, and I just thought they were awesome. I think James is a nifty guy. He is a theist and a Christian himself, but he's always speaking of mensches. Oh, you didn't? Yeah. And I've seen James debate once or twice. That's very rare now, but he actually he has defended Christianity before, but now his thing tends to be more of a moderator. And it just got to the point where I think James must have either asked me or I asked him. I was like, I want to try this out. And I think my first partner was T-Jump. And T-Jump was awesome. If you're watching this, T-Jump, you were great. Both times that I was on with him. And what I did was I kind of just took a back burner the first one or two times, and I really tried to absorb what was going on. And I really like this. I think that it is good mental practice, and I think generally speaking, what we all have trying to push in the skeptic community is a good, I'm not trying to think, not charity, a good cause, in that I really do think that we're all trying to really pry people very gently from superstition and build a community around critical thinking. And so I've been head first, I guess, ever since.
Yeah, so that's pretty much the exact same road that I went. I watched the Atheist Experience, and at some point I was just jealous. They get to talk to these people, and I don't, and I want that too. Our shows are different. They're based on the Atheist Experience, but they're different. We only have one guest per show, so you got an hour and a half talking to people, and I think that's a little bit more productive. There's also I don't know, maybe it's me. I think recently the Atheist Experience has become a little bit more aggressive, and cutting off conversations that I think would be worthwhile continuing, even though the lines are full and you might want to have multiple guests on. I think it's a shame. They used to have 45-minute talks with one guest if the topic was good enough, and that's the part that I miss right now.
The long form conversation is the most productive, is what you're saying, and I probably would agree with that. I would say my only defense of them is they might be victims of their own success. Is I think what happens now is that they get bombarded with calls and they're trying to work through them. But you're right. I'd rather it be this. I'd rather a theist get 40 minutes or whatever instead of the 15 and then get annoyed and then
Yeah, well, it
hang up.
obviously it also depends on the guest. I mean, you do have guests at some
Yeah,
point
true.
that just not worth talking to, and so that's obviously going to happen on a show like that where people can just call in. On our show, it's different. I try to find a guest, then we do an intake, explain a little bit about the format of the show. So a theist comes on and then is offered a second show where the theist determines what the topic is going to be. And they're not telling us the topic until we are sorry. Until sorry. Until we are live. So we can't prepare for the topic that they're throwing at us. And when you have an intake first, you can also get a feel of the guest and try and explain that we're not here to fight. We're not here to win a conversation. I think that's important, because if it's going to be a contest and someone needs to win, then you've achieved nothing. The idea behind our show is we want to make our guest think about sorry,
Right.
about their position, and that's more important than trying to convince them. If they're at least willing to rethink their position, see if they can come up with a flaw in their position, that's a lot more important. So that's what we're aiming for. And for what I've seen from your debates and your arguments during those debates, you're doing exactly that. You're trying to test them and you're trying to make them think about their position. It doesn't always work, obviously, but I think you're doing a great job.
Thank you so very much. I would agree with everything basically you just said. I I worried very early on that if I came in with a mentality of trying to destroy the other person, it would always fail. In fact, I think you can tell the people who end up exploding or end up rage quitting or end up I can only assume, but I imagine that in their head they came in trying to destroy their opponent, and when that doesn't happen, you get frustrated. So if you come in with the mindset that you're going to learn about their viewpoint, they're going to learn about your my point, their viewpoint, and vice versa. That's really what we're trying to accomplish. And if you could get some really great questions in there, I think that's what really does it. I said this to a theist named Jim on my stream the other day, is that I think the most satisfying thing an atheist or a skeptic can hear is, that's a really good question. Because in our head, it's just like, yeah. And so we're trying to do that. We're trying to have good conversations, just like you said. You're trying to bring theists in here to explain what their viewpoint and mindset is, and you're not trying to prep so you can just destroy them.
Check.
Yeah.
I think we all were kind of have somewhat of a foundation in the atheist experience. Peter, now you got me coughing, damn it. But
I'm normally the one coughing.
well, we're taking up the mantle for you. But I was thinking as I was watching that damn shit show, but times have changed, because I was born and raised a pretty hardcore Christian, and we never talk. I didn't even know non-belief was an option, right? If you would have said atheism to me in elementary, all the way up through college, my response would have been, what rap group is that? I didn't even know what the word atheism was. And I remember the first time I saw it, I was like, what the fuck is that? And yeah, I keep doing this type of shit because if they didn't, I'd probably still be a Christian. And it was the more productive conversations versus, the big time wars where someone called someone else stupid or an asshole, rage quit. I would have been turned off by that. And I agree. And I never watched that with the intent of becoming an atheist, but it was just interesting because I never heard the other side before. And all I heard was Matt, Jeff, Martin. Those were the people who I first got introduced to. And then I met one of my future ex-wives, Tracy Harris. And I'm like, holy shit, she's smart. And she was just killing it. And she never once raised her voice. She never once insulted. And she just kicked facts. And the person on the other end, when they could respond, they struggled. And at that point, I was like, oh shit.
And
I need to listen up. And it was the more productive conversations versus the insults. So
that's why she was my favorite as well. She you said, she never raised her voice. She could be stern, never had to raise her voice, and she could kill you with an argument easily. And that's one of the people that I dearly miss in this community. I've spoken to her. She's not going to come back into the atheist community. There'll probably be reasons for that, but
she broke from the experience, but she was still doing. Damn it, Peter, you got me going. Godless Bitches. Did she quit that as well?
Yeah, she quit everything at once. So she left the entire ACA. By the way, my coughing is just me testing out God's incredible, infallible body, where we have one orifice where we swallow and breathe, and that doesn't line up sometimes. So that's where you get the.
Well, what if all three of us prayed at once right now to end coughing?
I tried that.
You think it'll help?
I tried that. For me it didn't work, but maybe doing this.
Dear Jesus, please stop us all from coughing. Please get rid of, since you can't get rid of cancer, my ex-wife, the Atlanta Falcons, could you just do us a small favor? Dear God, please stop everyone from coughing. Let's see what happens.
Doesn't work because I still feel something that's going to come up.
Me too.
I'll mute.
So
No.
if you guys cough, does that mean God isn't real? Did we fall?
No, if you cough,
I-
the answer is either yes, no, or
Right.
not yet.
Exactly.
Isn't that what we get told?
Back
That's
to the drawing board.
That's usually the answer. Yeah, but well, we'll see. And I've got a dog trying to interfere. This is not going to go well. With technical problems.
Hold on.
The,
Where's the
Like
dog?
puppies.
the dog is way over there.
Ah,
Come here. They want to see you. Come.
oh, there we go.
Hurry, puppy.
There we are.
Beautiful.
She's getting old and getting a little bit confused. So trying to figure
Hey,
out
so am I.
what her spot is difficult at times. So yeah, go ahead.
Tell her to catch up. I'm getting older, but I've always been confused. So tell her to join the club.
Yeah, I mean, it comes with age, I think.
Yeah.
And now I completely lost the topic. Where were we talking?
We just wrapped up Tracy.
How
I think a lot of the women on there are good on Atheist Experience. I think a lot of them are sweet, but then they still have their edge. I've noticed that, whenever the theist tries to, I don't want to say put their guard down, but when they think that they're about to roll over to female atheists or whatever, I've seen them go quote unquote beast mode. So
Oh yeah.
it's always good seeing the godless bitches.
In my opinion, the host, because Matt takes up a lot of space. He's a very big personality. And the only time I've seen Matt get checked, Jen, Tracy, and I can't remember the lady with the purple hair. I think her name was Jen as well. But they were the ones who Matt would try and go roughshod and then be like, wait, your turn. Sit your ass over. They were the ones who kept Matt in check. And I haven't really watched it since the ladies kind of dropped off. But Jen Peoples, I saw her dismantle I won't even call it pro-life anymore. She dismantled a pro-forced birth argument. And her voice never left this level right here. There was no emotion, no nothing. She just kicked facts, and she dunked on this cat so hard she broke the fucking backboard, and he was really just forced to sit there and be like, yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. And I was like, the ladies made that show. Matt brought the fire. Jeff definitely brought the hammer of Thor. But those ladies were just the brains, period.
I can't even remember. I have more pictures in my head of Jen laughing at something silly that Athea said than her ever raising her voice ever. I have
Exactly.
a specific laugh in my head. Like, yeah, Jen, you're hearing bullshit. We're all hearing it.
And it wasn't that part of that. Not wasn't part of her charm. That was her charm.
Eh.
And she didn't carry the bullshit. It's like, oh no, please tell me how the laws of logic prove God. I mean, it was like, dude, just shut up and start over. And that smart ass laugh, you're absolutely right. I mean, it killed the bullshit.
And can I just say how much the laws of logic frigging annoy me? Because they are, just to go on that subject, they are a repeat of themselves. They're tautologies. What is, what isn't, something can't be and not be at the same time.
Right.
They're just like basically saying things so we're not crazy. Because if we were like to go what isn't and what isn't is, we would be crazy. But we now have to defend what is.
Yeah, what really drives me crazy is that a theist will bring up, well, we have the laws of logic. Who made those laws?
Oh,
Well,
God. I hate
fun
that.
fact, we did. Humans did. We came up with something to describe what we see. The laws of logic is a language just like English. It just describes what we see. And same thing goes for physics, for chemistry, for everything. It's basically a language to describe what we see. And the laws of physics aren't made by God, they're made by humans in order to make sense of our world. And that's it. And
The problem is you're making way too much sense for Christian apologists to sink their hooks into what it is you just said. It's way too simple.
Way too simple.
But
Yeah,
if you explain that it is a human-made language and it's used to do this, you might get through. The argument of who made those laws, that drives me crazy. Those laws might not work in a different universe. We don't know if there is one. But if our universe had started out differently, we would have different laws. It's the reason why we can't look beyond Planck time, because our laws of physics break down at that point. So we need new laws of physics to describe what happened before Planck time. And that's go ahead, Amy.
What's that?
And if we ever did find something beyond Planck time, it would be incorporated into our new model of the natural world. It's not like we would find something outside, we would find a multiverse, and then all of a sudden the multiverse would be supernatural. It would be our bounds by which we understand the universe will have expanded. And then they'll just say, well, what's outside the multiverse? And we'll go, middle fingers.
Yeah. It's constantly moving the goalpost. If we find something new, God just takes a step back and is just outside of reach conveniently.
And that's my problem with them. They always start with God as the answer, then they work backwards to their question.
Yep.
I remember when I first let everyone know I was an atheist, one of the ladies that I trained hooked me up, but they all did. And so it was right on this couch. You know, the dude would come over and talk to me and I would challenge him. And at that point, my Jack Russell was still alive, my first one. He had a stroke. And if you saw us together, it's like, holy shit. I mean, we were inseparable. He was my boy. And I remember he just looked at me in HI and he said something along the lines of, well, that's God. It's like, what? And it just, no matter what the situation, they'll just put 2 scoops of God on top and there's your answer, right? It's like, well, what about the laws of logic? God. Hey, my 17-year-old Jack Russell had a stroke. God. Right? Hey, Robert, did you take a shit this morning? Yeah, I always do. Well, see, God created shit. And so that, and it's like, no matter what happens, I've actually had, and it wasn't just Joseph Abraham when that shit show started. And for anyone in the audience, I truly apologize if I
don't. Not anymore.
Well, Joseph, it's what I'm getting ready to say.
Joseph. Wait. Just a second. Joseph Abraham is responsible for our new co-host. So I'm not apologizing for that show ever again.
No, I'm not apologizing for the show. It's what I'm getting ready to say.
Okay.
Because he said it, and I've had other people say things because of, you know, what's on my W-2. It's like, it's even hard to say. God allowed Susie to be raped to glorify his name. And I was like, I need you to shut the fuck up. I need you to take that argument and flush it down the commode and never use it again. Because again, no matter what the situation, Tim Tebow throws a touchdown, you find your car keys, my dog had a stroke, I took a shit, no matter what and when we talk about sexual assault and sex crimes, they still start with God as the answer and work backwards to some stupid ass question. And at that, like I said, you guys are just reaching. Yeah, right? No, and if your God does use rape to glorify his name, if you can prove that God exists, I'd piss on his toes.
Oh,
that's not worthy of respect, much less worship.
You got another challenge if you look over there on top. Beach Price just said, but apparently the devil created Democrats. So now we need to. Which brings me, I saw this earlier. Alex Jones freak out. He had a talk apparently with Q, and he was mad at Q because Q had told him that Donald Trump was the second coming of Jesus. He was the new Messiah, and now Trump was gone, and he was completely disappointed that that didn't work. I thought that was hilarious. Just
I'm on a website called 4chan, or I sometimes visit there, and they were. This is where like the focal point of disbelief of Biden winning the election started. And they were, they were talking about the storm every day and how Trump was going to come down. He was going to throw all the satanic pedophiles out and reclaim his second term and all this other stuff. And it was like, day came, day gone. Looks like he's gone.
Jesus.
yeah. And apparently, the guy who hung out with Epstein is the guy who's going to get rid of the child abusers.
Yeah. I want to say they share the same lawyer. Still to this day, Alan Dershowitz is the man who defended. He defended O.J. Simpson. He defended Jeffrey Epstein, and he defended Harvey Weinstein. So take those three people and add Trump. This is the type of clients that Alan Dershowitz defends.
Yeah.
I mean, it could be that Harvey Weinstein, Jeffrey Epstein, and Donald Trump were innocent, but
What are the odds?
Yeah.
I think that's up there with the whole when you lay down with dogs, you get up with fleas. Right? If your client list is the who's who of fucking toilet remnants, that tells you everything you need. And a quick reference again, godless sack of shit. After you and I finished with that person, she who shall not be named called godless sack of shit up and put her on her show. And the first thing she said was, I saw you on a debate with two atheists and I thought you did a great job. Now, if you saw that and you're like, that was fucking phenomenal. That doesn't just speak to godless sack of shit. That speaks to your character. Right? If you saw her and you thought she did a bang-up job, what else? That's why I almost hope godless sack of shit sees this broadcast.
I was happy with the results. I feel like the comment section for both the atheists and the theists were kind of finding convergent opinions on.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
that was definitely a good part.
Exactly. There were theists disagreeing with the anti-theists. That was kind of hilarious. Although I've noticed it does happen every once in a while. We've had it on our show as well, where we had a theist on, and we had Christians in the chat saying that we did a great job. Granted, this was an 18-year-old boy, and he was the victim of
Shit.
a guy who calls himself the wife of God.
Yeah.
Not sure how that works in a Bible that doesn't allow homosexuality, how a man can be the wife of God, but that's a question he never answered. But
Did we ever get an update on that kid?
no, sadly he dropped off of social media. I think that he's just being used.
There's no question he's being used and abused.
The wife of God uses him to be invited on shows on YouTube, and that's where he pushes the boy and says he'll tell you, and he has convinced the boy that he is Jesus. So it's a really sad story.
So wait, hold on. Let me wrap my head around this.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Who is the wife of God or the boy?
It's a guy in South Africa. His name is Johan Abrams. I
do a South African father's impression. I don't know why, but listening to Trevor Noah so much, that's another story.
This guy doesn't come close. He's got 1,500 court cases, and he's shown the paperwork. It's literally piles of paperwork.
So he's Donald Trump.
People who have filed restraining orders against him, and including in those are his wife and his daughters. So he's not a nice guy, not in the least. and I'm glad that now the boy has dropped off. I see no reason to get the guy back on the show. He was owed another show, but I think he did enough for us to cancel that on him.
Yeah,
Some people you do not want to platform. He's one of them.
exactly.
Well, if I
But-
just say there is mainstream precedent for this, if you just look at Jesus himself, well, them quoting Jesus, what the rich man came to him and said, "What can I do to follow you?" And he was like, "Sell all your belongings, leave your family, and follow me." Now, the Christians hear this and they're like, "Isn't that so beautiful? Sell all your belongings and leave your family and follow him." And I'm like, that's a cult leader. You realize that's a cult leader, right?
Not according to them. And
Yeah.
everyone else is a part of a cult. Everyone else has got it wrong. If I hold a baby's head underwater, I'm a monster. When God does it, I've literally been told it was the biggest show of grace. It's like, no, we call that infanticide. That's actually what we call it. And yeah, when Jesus tells you, if you love your family more than me, then you're not worthy of me. If I told someone that, I would be Ike Turner, right? When Jesus, well, it's Jesus, Robert. I mean, we have to give him latitude. We just don't understand his ways. I'm like, yeah, we do. He's a dick. If what you say is coming from the Bible, that's a dick. That's exactly what you would call Frank. If Frank did it, then call Jesus the exact same thing, right? I mean, there is no argument to be made for God / Jesus / the Holy Ghost. There's no, their heinous behavior. The only way to explain it is argument from special exception. That's it. There is no logical way to explain why you would murder an entire planet, save 8, knowing in advance that everyone else who repopulated the earth would be a total dick and you'd hate them and send them to hell.
Can I say how much that story drives me crazy? Because
Get
they
me.
constantly talk about how the only reason he was trying God can't show himself to us is because it would ruin our free will. Though drowning everyone doesn't seem to violate their free will at all. That seems
Not at all.
That is literally what I thought about yesterday. If anything is going to mess with your free will, is someone killing you, because that's pretty much the end of your free will.
You would think so.
Yes.
definition. Could we come up with a better definition than that? Than killing someone? I mean, you
Yes.
end their free will.
And that's not only the flood. I mean, read the Bible. Everyone gets killed who crosses God. And if God doesn't do it himself, he'll send Moses or he'll send others to kill. It's the whole Bible is about killing. And
Pretty much.
And I'm wondering whether or not, because I just watched some other lunatic on YouTube that I've been following. That's Artie's fault. And if you want to know about her, go watch Artie's channel. It's someone who used to make flat Earth videos, no longer does. She now found a video on YouTube where a woman on drugs climbed up in a toilet and fell through a ceiling. And she was so drugged. She said she was looking for the bus stop. And she said this woman broke in and she ruined the store and she needed to be shot and killed. No, that's not how that works. That's not how any of that works.
It works.
I mean, being high and being confused isn't a capital crime. Period.
Yeah, that doesn't deserve death. That escalated really quickly. That went
Yes.
from being blinked to my eyes going like, what the hell, really quickly.
Yes.
Okay.
So
I hope being high is not a capital crime.
for some
They would
people,
have taken my ass out to pasture a long time ago.
for some people, it's a state of being, I guess.
I just want some capital crime.
Yes, I mean, And
I'm sorry. We're about to get it. Bubba can't tell my laugh or my cry. Sorry.
Here in Holland, it's not even a crime. You can have drugs. You can use drugs. It's not a crime. You're not going
Holy
to be locked
shit.
up. If you want to smoke some marijuana and you go out on the street and ask a cop for a light, he will give it to you if you have one.
That's so crazy.
That's the way I want it to be. Not that I go too far into politics, but I'm much further or closer to legalizing as much as possible these narcotics than us creating basically a prison cycle reform, basically just getting people in so we can send them back in and out, in and out, in and out. I'd rather have that.
Yeah.
One of the team counselors when I was at UT, she was the first person to say this. And back then, again, I was hardcore Christian. I was like, you're wrong. But in the back of my head, I was like, holy shit, she's making some sense. But I remember Miss Irma saying, drugs, at least the addiction portion of it, that's a medical problem, not a criminal problem. And if you just sit there and you pack the jails full of people who need medical attention, you're fucking doing it wrong, right? I mean, it's kind of like the whole, we wouldn't have to worry about teenage pregnancy if teenagers would just stop having sex. I'm like, okay. Now, when you're ready to talk about reality, maybe we can talk about comprehensive sex education. People are going to do drugs. So it's like, how can we make it the safest we could possibly make it? Which sounds kind of fucked up, but you can either get a needle out of the bottom of a trash can, shoot up something fucked up, catch some horrible disease from a dirty needle, or we can curb, and you're solving other problems versus just compounding, if that makes any sense.
Absolutely. And I also think if you're an 18 or 19-year-old, still a kid, and you are selling some sort of drug, you don't know any better. You've never even worked another job in your life. And now you got a felony. Now you have a felony that you had to plead guilty to, and they kick you out of the jail and they say, go get a job or else you're going to get in here. And you go to every place, and every place is like, well, you're a felon. You have no job experience. Why should we hire you? So how long does it take for that kid to get back into jail? Not very long.
Can y'all listen to her, please? Can y'all please write down what she just fucking said? That's exactly that's my generation. I don't know how old you are, but that was that whole Nancy Reagan shit. It was how do we disenfranchise the brown and the blacks, basically, right? Because one thing that I hope people know, once you get a felony, guess what you can't do anymore? You can't fucking vote. And so you roll a joint, you get high, you get busted. Yeah, you're 20 years old. You get caught with some weed, you go to jail. You sell some crack, whatever, you go to jail. You don't vote. This isn't about keeping people clean. This is about disenfranchising. Because if you think the drugs only affect the minority populations, boy, you couldn't be more wrong, right? It's a targeted strike. And I won't go too far in that because, boy, my blood pressure has to come down.
Yeah, well, so we got a comment from the side chat, Frustrated Atheist. He said, why do y'all get to talk about things that I would love to talk about? Ross, you're invited. Come on, let's talk.
Bring it in.
We'll set it up. DM me and we'll have you on the show. No problem whatsoever. I wanted to bring it to a slightly different topic, going back to you, Amy. So we've seen you on Modern Day Debate doing different debates. What are the ones you like most, and why exactly?
So I would say I'm biased. I like the classic atheism versus theism fight. And that is because I think the atheists have an advantage. I think you can be both the strong and weak atheists have the advantage in this position. I tend to stay away from politics because it gets everyone all inflamed. And even the few political issues I take stake in, I try and do like crazy, almost sci-fi answers to them. So to circle back to the answer, I really like trying to debunk, if that's even a possible, the most popular superstition in the world, which is religion.
Yeah, I also think
So do.
I also think that's where there's the most amount to gain, because if you can tackle that, you automatically will draw in the flat earthers, who are mainly flat earthers because of the Bible. Um,
And if
it also would change people's view toward politics, I guess. I'm not
100%.
I'm not saying that all atheists are Democrats, but they do have a different view, and so I think, as far as I'm concerned, and in my country things are completely different. But if you talk to Americans, it it seems like everything goes back to them being
Religion.
being Christians. Every problem we're still struggling with is rooted in religion, and no matter where you look, whether it's people calling for the death penalty, whether it's people who are pro-life, they're only pro-life until the baby is born, because then it can go fuck itself, because we're not going to give you some health care, because that's socialism. And socialism is Stalin, is communism. So and all of that, if look at church services in the US, that is what is being preached. And if you grow up being a Christian, you are told from a very young age, you do not question the guy in the pulpit. That guy has the truth. So you do not think for yourself, you listen to him, and you do what he says. And if
Or you burn.
that's how
Pretty much.
you are brought up, you don't learn to think for yourself. You don't learn critical thinking. You might pick up a few things at school, but it you don't practice that in real life. You only practice that in the things you learn in school, whether it be science or whatever. You do not practice critical thinking in your real life, because that's where you're still told to listen to the guy in the pulpit, who you're going to watch once or sometimes more than once a week. And that pisses me off. And
I agree. That's me. And to piggyback off what you just said, I believe a lot of the other most popular conspiracy theories, like specifically flat Earth, have their root in theism. If you debate a flat earther and you never bring up the topic of God, they'll never bring up the topic of God either, because a lot of the times it doesn't even seem like it occurs to them. But the moment you bring up God to a flat earther, they'll be like, "Oh, of course I'm doing this," because they want to deny the Bible. Of course they wouldn't be rounders if they believed in the Bible. And it's like, why have we been talking about a flat earth then? This is a Bible debate. The giant amounts of superstition that have nothing to do with religion, for whatever reason, it always comes back to religion. I don't know if that's, correlation, causation, doesn't always happen, but I've never met an atheist flat earther. Let's just say that. Not yet. Could be, but not yet.
And I agree with you on superstition as well, because if you're going to believe in something supernatural, why wouldn't you believe in multiple supernatural things? Because the devil is one. So if the devil can actually do something, maybe there's more things that can do something. And the reason that I'm on here, and I've told this multiple times, and I'll tell it when we have a guest on that I haven't spoken to before. The reason that I'm on here, the reason for this show, is Kent Hovind. I bumped into a Kent Hovind video, 100 Reasons Why Evolution is Stupid. That's why I'm on here. That's when I thought, now I need to do something. If adults actually sit down in a church, listen to this guy, buy his stuff, and believe him, then we need to counter that. And
that we do.
We need a lot of people to do that, and that's why I like having people like you around, Amy, because I'm a firm believer in our channel's not that big, um, but we we need to address different people, and in order to address different people successfully, you need different approaches, and everyone has their own unique approach. You might have something similar to this person, and maybe some parts from that person. You will have your own unique approach. So if we're going to convince people, the more people we have to convince others, the more approaches we have,
True.
the more people we will reach. So,
Yep.
and that's why our channel isn't growing the way it should, because most of the time I'm working on helping other people build their channel and doing stuff. Um,
I see that. I
I
see the stuff you made for people.
yes. So, and that's maybe my mistake. We could be bigger. We could be doing more things. I'm for now. I'm satisfied. We have a fair amount of guests, and helping out others is also a thing that I'd absolutely love to do. So
And if I could just say, I think you shouldn't underestimate that. I believe that we're trying to make as big as a tent possible, going the exact opposite route of what we were talking about earlier. And it takes different strokes and different folks. And I think that the great thing about the atheist community, it's not that we don't schism, because we are cats. If anything, we have, sometimes we have stronger beliefs than everyone next to us. But I find we schism less. Because we're not here trying to say that our opinions are backed up from the almighty creator of the universe. It's just our opinion. Whereas if you go into a Christian or a Muslim or any other type of channel, you may be insulting. Just saying your Christianity against someone else's Christianity, you may be deeply offending them to the point where they're like, you are a Satanist, you are an antichrist, a pagan. They love to throw all of them together, an atheist.
True.
And so it's just I think it's good. I think what you're doing is actually what's needed, because we are a big community, and we're going to be a growing community the longer that the internet stays on.
yeah, that. So the internet can be a curse, because obviously, if you want to look for flat Earth videos and want to be convinced that the Earth is flat, there's a lot you can find.
Ain't that the truth?
But the only thing that pisses me off is that in this community, the people who are actively working in it, they don't have tons of money to spend. It is hard for people to find patrons and to get people to donate through PayPal. So they've got nothing to spend, whereas the Christians, they get thrown money at them all the time. It's insane. So they can afford.
We're not getting 10%.
Yep.
Yeah, well, they can afford better computers. They can afford people to do their graphics work. They can afford people to develop everything for them that they need, and that's where the atheist community is still lacking. That's not there.
And who are the persecuted ones again? I'm trying to remember.
Yes, yes.
I know.
Jesus.
I mean, but that's just the case, and I think our strength there should be that we work together, and because we've got the same cause, and I'm not in it for the money. As long as I can do what I want to do, I'm not in it for the money, and I do my stuff for free. So maybe some point, maybe at some point, because I used to finance this with my job. Now I'm retired. That's no longer the case. So maybe at some point I might want to throw a few things out and say, hey, can you support us? But for now, if it's not needed, I don't think it's needed. As long as we get
we're
the
growing.
work.
And you might want to do you have a Patreon? I think I'm about to finish making a Patreon. I was trying to think of what things would actually be worthy of giving to Patreons, and I'm coming to an answer similar to yours, which is maybe I should offer people like I'll make you a 30-second movie or an ad or something like that, or uh, try and make a 3D model or whatever it is that our art can get people.
Well, so you can do both. I mean, if you have the money and you can support people, that's okay. At this time I've been doing this. I've been on social media since 2015, so I know an awful lot of people. If I want to support all of them, I'll have no money left for myself. So, and
Yeah.
if I need to pick and choose, I'd feel guilty because they all deserve to get some support. So I'm doing it the way that I can, which
Which is all we can do.
yes, and I'm for now at least it's appreciated. I mean, I get to work with Aaron Ra, which is pretty much my major achievement. I get to do his shows. So
Really? Oh,
if
see, that's awesome.
if anything, I think that's my payment in full. Being able to work with the guy that inspired me most, because that
I
was
love Aaron. He triggers. Not that James, my guest host partner. I think his thing. He really likes to trigger the theists. I like it, but only if it's because I asked a good question, and then they go, "Well, you can't ask that question." It's like, but I did.
I can't take it back.
well,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, and it's different. I mean, if you look at Aaron Ra, he can be pretty aggressive, but he'll only
That's
go
I like him though.
he'll only go there if you push certain buttons.
Sure.
And some people just know where to find those buttons.
Well, it's kind of like what Amy was saying earlier. It's going to take all kinds, right? You've got a mental surgeon. Hold on, my leg is killing me. It takes a mental surgeon. You got a mental surgeon like Tracy Harris. You've got kind of a nice asshole like a Matt Dillahunty. You've got an Aaron. It takes all kinds, right? Just like you can't put your finger on one kind of Christian, right? Yeah, now I sound like the person that they've got lots of black friends. I've got lots of Christian friends, and I would go to say so far, most of them aren't dicks. There's one in particular who I'm thinking of. I can't put this person in the same category as the other ones. It's her Jesus says gay people are good to go. Trans people should be able to serve in the military. Just do you, don't be a dick. That's her version of Jesus. And like, I like your Jesus, right? Just like you're not going to find just one kind of Christian. You're not going to find just one kind of atheist. For every Aaron Ra, there's a godless sack of shit, right? For every Amy, there's something. You're right. We're a big mix. We're a big bag. And the more probably channels we can get out, the better. Because someone's going to be attracted to the super aggressive. Someone's going to be attracted to the super intellectual, the challenging. Yeah, the more the merrier. And no, you can't put your finger on just one kind of atheist.
And what you were talking about with the different types of Christianity, I think we do have to pay close attention. The theists will disagree with me on this, but I really do believe they're trying to explain their self, like their consciousness is coming out. So when they're like, God loves gays, what they're really saying is like, I love gays. I don't even care.
Oh, yeah.
And so we're just trying to pick up on that. So because you listen to the Christian and be like, I don't want you to go to hell and things like that. Well, it's
right.
Like,
It's
well,
always
doctor.
it's always good to notice that the God that they believe in agrees with them completely. That
I
seems
said that. Yeah, I said that to Aaron Ra on Mama Atheist's channel.
yes.
And that religion is the worship of your own ego. Because like I said, you ever notice how you and your God, you agree on everything, including the stuff that you don't agree with.
Yep.
Again, like my friend Beverly, let's call her Beverly. Her Jesus loves gay people, wants everyone to be happy. Her Jesus doesn't even have a hell. And you'll never guess what? Beverly thinks gay people are cool. Beverly thinks trans people should be able to go to the bathroom they want to go to. Beverly doesn't believe that an all-loving God sends people to eternal torment just because they were born in fucking Bangladesh and didn't get her revelation. Her God sends everyone to heaven as long as you're not an asshole. Yep. I was like, yeah, you're right. It is truly the worship of your own ego. It's who you are on steroids. That's it.
Yep.
Yeah.
We're coming up to an hour and a half.
Almost shit.
Great. Yes. So we usually keep it to around an hour and a half. There's one topic we haven't touched on, and I really want to touch on that because I think that's important. So, Amy, you've got your own channel. Tell us a little bit about what you're doing there right now and what you want to do and how people can. I put the link to your channel, to your main channel, in the description, so people can go check you out. But yeah, tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. So at my channel, youtube.com/Amy Newman, you can tell how proud I am that I got that. You can come on and talk with a bunch of skeptic, atheists, and theists about a whole bunch of both philosophical and some irreverent topics. We tend to focus more on theology, but we went into the flat earth. I think we're going to do a Bigfoot one and aliens. So if you're looking for a good time and some even skeptic comedy, because I'm going back up on stage next week, come on to the channel and come join, say hi. We have lots of open mic nights.
Great.
Is that Amy Newman site, does that link to your comedy? Because I didn't know you were a comedian until last night.
So it's complicated. It's complicated, and then I simplified it. So at one point, I had two different accounts, and I was trying to do a podcast and comedy. And one started to get more subscribers than the other, and I start to feel pulled apart. And so my comedy account, I just took the comedy part off, and it just became Amy Newman. So now I'm just going to upload everything there.
So just
I'm looking you up.
Just to make sure, because I found 3 accounts. That
yes, exactly. It's youtube.com/Amy Newman. Okay. It's the one with the mic in it.
The one that currently has the most subscribers.
Yes, I have like 165.
And that one is in the link in the description down below, so people shouldn't have any problems finding you. I put it in there.
Okay, that one I have to write that shit down.
Yeah, so I think we can wrap it up. Amy, obviously you get an open invite if there's anything ever you want to talk about.
Please God, come back.
Just shoot us a message and we'll have you back. It was really great talking to you because this was on my to-do list for a long time, and a lot of stuff has happened, and that's why it took along. But I'm really glad to have had you on our channel. I'm a great fan. Please keep doing what you do, and I'll follow you on your own channel as well as on Modern Day Debate. So I'm looking forward to a lot more debates.
That sounds great. Thank you for having me on. And I just want to say what you guys both do here is awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, stick around until after I shut off the broadcast. I want to thank everyone in the side chat. Special thanks to Critical Cripple, who solved our tech problem earlier. Dave, as always, you're great. It's terrific. We'll see you all for another show. I'm busy setting up a few shows. Not sure when they're going to happen. At least for tomorrow, you can tune in on Ross' channel and see his conversation with Doc Savage. So catch you all later, I guess. See you next time. Bye-bye.
Peace.